Yeah! Oh gosh. My hair's flat. Like my tits. Don't lie, I've got nice tits. That doesn't mean they're not flat. All right, prime time.
I pull the sheets back, I get on it, and then and he
Oh, this is the most arrogant killer ever from A Mind of a Criminal. They uploaded this 1 hour ago. This is fresh off the skillet.
This is like something out of TV. There's an arm, there's another arm.
And so I'm there in a car quickly being flooded with water. This is what I'm going to be remembered for, dying of hypothermia and a botched attempt at hiding a body. And I'm just like...
This is 19-year-old Brian Cohey, about to be questioned regarding the murder of Warren Barnes, a 69-year-old homeless man. Picture Grand Junction, a city with a large homeless population. Among these homeless individuals was a man named Warren Barnes. Often found lost in the pages of a paperback, Warren brought a touch of whimsy to the downtown scene, lending a hand to store owners and picking up odd jobs along the way. Brian Cohey, on the other hand, had begun showing psychopathic tendencies from a very young age. According to his mother, he developed an obsession with murder at the age of 15. He would frequently search for information about serial killers on the internet, studying the methods they used to carry out their heinous crimes. This morbid fascination consumed him and earned him the nickname Dahmer, after the infamous Jeffrey Dahmer.
Wow, love that.
By the time Brian turned 18, he was fixated on the idea of murdering someone just to experience the sensation. He would often go on night drives wearing a blue jumper reminiscent of Michael Myers, in search of potential victims. Brian contemplated targeting high-risk individuals, believing it would attract less attention. His original plan involved hiring a prostitute, subduing her, before ultimately killing her. Brian...
It's actually true. Unfortunately, those do bring about less attention because they're mostly a unfortunately forgotten victim sometimes. Yeah, like sex workers and homeless people will tend to be swept under the rug sometimes. So they do end up being an easy target for some people.
Was so cooperative during his arrest that the police didn't even have to use handcuffs. He was brought in for questioning around 2:30 p.m.
We never met, have we?
No.
Can you, it's Brian, walk me through, how do you spell your last name?
Thomas Cohey, C-O-H-E-E.
Okay. And what's your birthday, Brian?
January 10th, 2002.
And how did you get here?
I murdered someone.
Okay.
What do you want to know?
So start back at the beginning and go slow and tell me as many details as you can remember.
So, Murray going to jail for the 15 years, probably.
Did they say why they picked him up? Did I miss that? Also, he just went out the gate confessing? Bro just immediately confessed.
I have no idea.
Because
What's the beginning?
More than 15, bud.
I mean, I'm going to jail for 20, probably.
More than that.
Knowing he was in trouble and unable to lie his way out, Brian accepted the overwhelming evidence against him. He had come to terms with the fact that he would spend a significant portion of his life in jail. As a result, he appeared relaxed and maintained a calm demeanor throughout the interrogation.
So what's important to me is to learn as much about you and what you did and as I can.
Well,
as many details as you can give me, the better.
Yeah, it was the night of February 27th. It was a full moon, and I figured I can see so well, why not drive out? And I am in a bad state of mind at that time. I have major depressive disorder, so I am not thinking positively.
Okay.
On the night of February 27th, 2021, during one of his nocturnal drives to clear his mind and seek out a victim, Brian couldn't find a prostitute in Grand Junction. After cruising around for over an hour, he stumbled upon Warren Barnes, who was sleeping under a tent beneath the bridge near the Messer County Sheriff's Department.
And I see a shape here on the railway track, so I'm like, oh, interesting. So I go up, and as I'm looking, I see a large
Is he just drawing on the wall?
wrapped in a canvas.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's a homeless person.
Without hesitation, Brian donned his gloves, retrieved his 12-inch kitchen knife from the glove box, and pulled back the canvas, proceeding to stab Warren Barnes in the neck.
He was saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why? And I said, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. murder someone. The whole ordeal lasted about a minute and a half. Is it okay if I do a demonstration?
Oh, yeah.
This
Oh
is
my
him.
God.
I was straddled on top of him like this.
Okay.
And he couldn't fight back. It was actually surprisingly easy. I was barely breaking a sweat. I thought, oh, this guy, he's going to be tough. But no, it was actually surprisingly easy. And during the time, I was growling and making animalistic noises.
Why were you doing that?
First of all, this guy is full of shit. He's using this as attention. I mean, like, he probably did do this and he probably did do some of that, but like the addition of information is definitely garbage. It's just him living out an exaggeration and reminiscing and then trying to make it grandiose to the police to just justify and to seem cool and to keep attention.
I suppose it was a frenzy.
Okay.
I was so excited, so rushed up on adrenaline and every day. Like this.
Warren was stabbed more than 30 times. He was asleep before the attack, catching him by surprise and preventing him from fighting back. After approximately a minute, Warren let out a final grunt and succumbed to his injuries.
I stripped his clothes. I gave him a Glasgow smile.
What's that?
A Joker smile.
Jesus
And
Christ.
then I left his body there.
It's right here. Yeah. Because there's an arm. There's an arm, there's another arm.
Okay, hold on. Do some pictures.
Right, here's a leg.
As in...
Brian took a few pictures of the corpse but immediately deleted them,
Oh my...
recognizing the potential incriminating evidence they represented if he were to be caught.
How many times, man?
And then I took the head,
How many people?
put it in a leftover pizza box from the dinner a few nights ago. And then I took the hands, put them in the back, drove home, hid the hands and head in my room. And then I tried going to sleep.
The
But I was
head?
worried that because there was a hole in my gloves right here, I was worried that they would be able to obtain a partial print. So I figured, why not go all the way? I drove back in a different outfit, picked up his body, put it in my trunk, and drove to the Blue Heron drop-off station. The ramp is quite steep, and you need to have four-wheel drive to pull out of it.
Okay.
And my car didn't. And I opened the trunk, I take his body out, I put it in the water, and because I don't want fingerprints on a body, so I just try moving it with my shoes. That works successfully. He goes out, some
Wow,
part in
real
the river,
clever, bud.
floats off.
Okay.
God knows where he is now.
After disposing of the body in the river, Brian attempted to drive his truck out of the area. However, without four-wheel drive, his vehicle became stuck.
I tried putting it full throttle.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. My car doesn't have four-wheel drive. Stupid me. And so then I tried putting it in low gear. I'm trying everything at this point.
Right.
And it still doesn't come out. And then it slides into the river.
Oh,
My car slides into the river, me inside. It is the middle of February
it's cold.
at night
Yeah.
in the river that's almost freezing. I
You
almost died.
fucking
So I'm able to
idiot.
climb out. I don't see the
Oh
body,
my
so I'm
God.
able to travel a bit.
Okay.
And
Wow. What an idiot, bro.
And I'm sitting there, I need to act fast or else I'll die of hypothermia. I'm
Oh,
no.
panicking a bit at this point. I'm going to be like, this is what I'm going to be remembered for, dying of hypothermia and a botched attempt at hiding a body. And I'm just like,
Brian immediately called his parents to inform them of the car's submersion and his drenched state.
Oh my
so what I
God.
say is, I feel like I need to get out. I often do. I feel like I need to get out in my thoughts. Have you ever felt
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
So I say that I drive down to the Blue Heron Point and just park and just turn off the car and think.
Okay.
And I tell them that I'm stupid and I park too low and then my car slides in the river.
Okay. Did they believe you?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the
Yes.
police came. I didn't do a breathalyzer test because I wasn't drinking.
Was it
You can refuse that, by the way.
the police or the sheriff that
It
came?
was the police.
Okay, all right.
He's right there if you want to talk to him. Bye.
Hi.
Poor parents.
How do we call a tow for that? Just that it's...
I don't know, because he'd have to get in the friggin' water.
That's not a truck, by the way. Did the narrator or did he call it a truck? That's just a normal ass car, yeah. Is the body still in the car? We'll meet you too, man.
I called Black's Towing, and they want to.
No, they already threw the body in the river. He said that it had been gone by then.
They think they might be able to pull it out.
Okay.
Shame.
Yeah,
Would've been a great way to get caught.
He was almost 18 before he got his driver's license because we didn't want him having any accidents like they do when they're 16 and 17. And
Gotcha.
stupid things.
You don't really have less accidents because you're older. You have less accidents because you drive better from driving.
At this point, she is completely unaware of the terrible crime that her son has committed.
And you weren't drinking? No, were you drinking? You were not drinking?
No,
Why is this
I
guy
was,
yelling, bro?
I have never touched.
Were you drinking?
Any drugs.
Were you drinking?
After Brian went back home, both his mother and the police noticed blood on the rear bumper of the truck.
And so when they pull it out,
It's not a truck,
they
bro.
immediately see blood on the bumper. And they're all thinking, we really like to get in this trunk. Fools. There is nothing in the trunk.
Brian
Yes, there
thought he
is.
had gotten away with murder and believed that the victim, Warren Barnes, would go unnoticed. However, he couldn't have been more mistaken. It soon became apparent that Warren was a well-known figure in the community, and his friends grew concerned when they couldn't reach him the following day.
Also, there is stuff in the trunk because DNA can like persist. He might not be in the trunk anymore, but all of his hair follicles and blood DNA and skin DNA, all of that's on the car, which they can get, by the way, very easily.
So,
Nothing.
and he,
That was
and so why did you, what raised concern with you today to report him missing?
because the place people already called to see if I had seen him because he didn't show up for work and he's
Oh
never
my
once
God,
not
did you
shown
hear
up for
that?
work in the 4 years
fucking
he's been working
android,
with them.
the android noise.
So I said no, and that I hadn't seen him since Saturday.
My boss's name is April Walker. She's actually the manager of the store. And she asked me today, did you see Warren today? And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, actually, no. And she was like, well, I just saw this on Facebook. He's been missing since Saturday. And I'm like,
Dude,
oh my
somebody
God.
turn their fucking
like he's
phone
like,
off,
just
bro.
like his family does, you know, because we talk to
Oh,
him
I fucking
every
love my
morning, and
Samsung
a
phone.
lot of homeless people come in there, and I just feel comfortable having him there.
Meanwhile, the police pulled the car out of the river and noticed more blood on the door handle, as
Smart.
well as the bloody gloves on the passenger seat.
God, what a genius.
Brian had forgot to throw the gloves away.
Oh
They
my
were
God.
still curious about the blood. I said, I don't know where the blood came from. They didn't
Smart.
know what to believe this day because it's blood, it's sticky, it's sinewy, but I can't name a source. So they were just a tiny bit curious.
While all this was happening, Brian's mother called the Messer County Police Department
So smart.
to report finding a plastic bag with possible human remains in her son's closet. Brian had a morbid interest in forensics and knew that Warren's head would start to smell after a few days.
3 days, the body starts to stink. No, 3 hours, rigor mortis sets in.
Yup.
Body stiffens.
That's true.
3 days, the body starts to stink because of decomposition.
It's dependent.
3 weeks, the body
It's not really-
is starting to seriously decompose.
That's
Right.
3 months,
really a serious estimation. Depends on like the environment and everything, but yeah, whatever.
the body is unrecognizable. 3 years, it turns into a skeleton.
You talked about you were just kind of in a bad state that night.
It was, yes.
Okay. Why were you in a bad state?
During the interrogation, Brian talked about his mental health struggles and thoughts of He mentioned being diagnosed with schizophrenia and experiencing hallucinations where he believed people were staring at him through the window and eyes were watching him from the walls.
Oh,
I was
oh my.
watching the video when all of a sudden I start going into the thoughts. I get the feeling, I know that it isn't, but I get the feeling that there are eyes on the walls watching me, eyes on the furniture. And I cover myself up. I'm like, oh God. eyes. And I'm worried if I stick anything out from the bed, blades will come up and chop it off. My whole body was shaking, not like out of fear. It was like...
The combination of his mental health
What does that have to
challenges
do with
and
anything?
fascination with murder may have distorted his perception of reality, making it difficult for him to distinguish between his delusions and what was actually happening.
Could be.
Schizophrenia is sometimes used by murderers as a defense.
Hey, look, it's the fucking idiot.
Claiming they weren't in the right state of mind.
What a classic.
However, research shows that people with schizophrenia are not more prone to violent
It's the
crimes
demons
than
at
the
4
general
a.m. guy.
population. In Brian's case, he was sober during the murder, so this negates the idea of schizophrenia being the reason behind the murder.
What?
I don't have it.
In Brian's case, he was sober during the murder, so this negates the idea of schizophrenia being the reason behind the murder.
That doesn't make sense. Schizophrenia could still put him into a state. Kind of a weird gloss. I see what they're saying, because this study is clearly about like the correlation between these three, but he's saying because this isn't here, substance wasn't being used during this, therefore he wasn't this at the time. But it's not really what this study is saying. I mean, just based on this alone, this is saying that people with both of these have a potential predisposition to commit a violent crime, as opposed to people without either or just schizophrenia. That doesn't really say he wasn't drinking. Yeah, also that's still like just above 25%. That's still not super, super high. It could still be part of the reason. Just because he wasn't drinking at the time or using substance at the time doesn't mean it didn't happen. Yeah, no, that's weird.
I don't have any hallucinations.
Okay.
I had delusions, I guess.
Okay.
Like, years ago, I thought that's what people staring at me. Okay. I felt people watching me from every window. The birds were looking at me, watching me.
Okay.
For greater purpose. That was a delusion, I suppose.
Right.
For a while, I was willing to do anything, good or bad. That was years ago in school. I was willing to do anything, whether it be good or bad, just to gain notoriety, fame, influence.
I'm very curious. How do you feel about all this now?
I mean, the next 15 years of my life look set in stone. Prison.
More than that, bud.
If I go back that night, probably wouldn't have done it. Knowing that, knowing what it felt like, knowing how this will all turn out, I wouldn't have done it.
Although he claims he wouldn't repeat his actions
Smart
if
for him
given
to
the
say.
chance, Brian demonstrates a disturbing lack of remorse or regret for taking a life.
His defense could still
His
use that.
disappointment stems not from the act of murder itself, but rather from
The
his
outcome.
expectations
Yeah.
of it.
I thought
Still a
it
problem.
would be the best feeling in the world.
Okay. And it just, you said you didn't feel much of anything.
Excitement,
Oh, that's right. Okay.
but other than that, no.
This lack of satisfaction reveals a disturbing disconnection from the human experience and a disregard
True.
for the value of life. It highlights the profound extent of his psychopathy, where empathy and remorse seem to have vanished. Brian was charged with the first-degree murder of Warren Barnes,
Shocker.
among other charges, and his trial took place on January 17th, 2022. During the trial, he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity,
That's not gonna
claiming that he was not in the right state of mind at the time of the murder and therefore should be deemed innocent. However, after undergoing several psychiatric evaluations, Brian was deemed mentally fit to stand trial. Throughout the trial, Brian displayed a disturbing lack of remorse, often seen smiling and laughing. Watching your mother cry and not showing any emotion says a lot about someone's personality. After a 2-week trial and 2 days of deliberation, Brian Cohey was found guilty
I can't
for the
believe
murder of Warren Barnes and was sentenced to life in prison
Yup.
without the possibility of parole.
Yup. Can't believe that. He says 15 years, but 15 years is a generous sentence for murder. Maybe for second or third, but definitely not first. And he had enough history and expression of wanting to not get away from first. plus the general attitude of his interview definitely contributes. What the fuck is happening in this thumbnail?